Thanks for listening to GYST.
You're listening to Get Your Shit Together with Adina and Diane, a digestible health and fitness show for women.
Real quick, the content of this podcast is intended for general information only and is not medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Chat with your healthcare provider before making changes. Okay? Okay, cool.
I think they got it. Let's jump right into this week's episode. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
A good evening so far.
Is it? Is it a good evening though?
Yes, it is. Wait, now my light is blocking my audio, so I can't see if I'm clipping. Hold on. I'm trying a new setup because, you guys, the video sitch has been a sitch. We're getting it. We're doing it. But I noticed on the last episode that the way my stuff was set up, like you couldn't see my mouth because I was here behind my mic. So now
hiding. Yeah, we got rid of the pop socket.
Yeah, now I'm trying to be here.
Pop socket, pop filter.
But then I need my outline over there and I need my audio over there. You guys love this tech stuff, don't you?
Yeah, behind the scenes. And if you're watching on YouTube, I have scrambled eggs in my mouth, my little snack.
That's fine.
So, yeah, it's a snack video now.
So yeah, it is a good evening. We got back from the beach, did some bedtimes, ate a burger, started a new show, and got
a new TV show.
We got all of 10 minutes in by the time I shoveled my burger in my mouth, and here we are.
And now we're here. I have not been watching TV, movies at all. I've been in audiobooks, solidly in audiobooks, and my Kindle.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I am running on so little sleep. It is like harrowing. So
to say the least.
There is an attempt to just like cool down on the couch for 10 minutes before Ori wakes up. And we did our annual comfort rewatch of all of Adam Sandler's movies. Basically, we did Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Just Go With It.
Essentials.
I think that's how far we got.
You did send me that Happy Gilmore quilting.
Yes, we need to put that up on the feed.
That needs to go because that will definitely be me and Neil this fall when he has a seasonal business and he was trying to brainstorm ways to keep himself busy this fall, and out of nowhere he comes into the kitchen and he's like, what if you just buy a bunch of fabric and I cut and measure and maybe get some of my employees to also help, and we just put together Kindle sleeves, purse meat pouches, all of that. I was like, oh, I'm just happy with this being a hobby right now. And he's like, no, we need to put a production line in place.
This is handmade quality shit.
Anyone else's fingers hurt?
So that joke didn't age so well, but it is funny.
Yeah. I think people can laugh at that. I know some of those jokes from the 90s rom-coms and coms didn't, but that one was still funny.
Yeah.
Over here.
So what's going on over there?
Yeah, I'm purging. I don't know if you could tell in the video. I went and got a deep clean hydrofacial.
Wait, Diane, let me just tell you something. Now that we have video, you need to be mindful of when you move away from your microphone and then we can't hear you. Okay? I know you want to show us things. Yeah, because we still need to hear you.
Like this. Yeah, so maybe I bring my mic and my face closer.
There you go.
So I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show before, but I love my medical esthetician, and I've always loved hydrofacial treatments. If you've never had one, think of like a vacuum for your face and serums. And at this location, I go to a place called Renewal Skin Spa. If you're a West Michigan girly, love their practice. And yeah, my esthetician April just sucks the shit out of my skin, quite literally. But this time she was like, oh, we're doing a special with dermaplaning where they basically straight razor your face and get all the little peach fuzz off and dead skin cells. And I'm sick and disgusting, and I like to see what comes off of my face, of course. And I was like, it looks like my pug's hair. It looks like I have an undercoat.
Nice.
But it was cool to see. And then there's a little jar that has all the things they suck out of your skin. I love to see what's in there.
Do you get to take it home?
I love it. No, No, and put it on display, but I definitely took a video of it
Well,
because
that's nice.
I have to show Neil and just, yeah, but I really
Did
like
Neil
it.
love
So
that?
the day or he's a picker. I don't like to pick on things, but he will like mash on his nose to extract blackheads that I don't even think are there, but I'll say like, did you bruise your nose? Have you been extracting? And I also got him into going and getting skincare treatments every couple months, and he's like total upholder patient. Like he'll use whatever skincare they tell him
That's
to.
so nice.
But I was like, your esthetician's not going to like that you're picking on your face. But a couple of days after I get a treatment, I'll purge. So feeling a little tight right now. But other than that, yeah, just really wanted to have that TLC after travel, really coming off an emotional week when I was home in Virginia for my grandpa's memorial. But other than that, yeah, I've been tearing through books. So I mentioned a few episodes ago that I'm reading Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which is like the fantasy book right now. It's like one of the top books on all the bestseller lists.
That's the Dragon School
I think. The Dragon School one. So it would be a great read for fall. I actually have some one-on-one client Voxer threads going right now where, yes, we're talking about like nutritional therapy things, their health, but then there are some where we have also like side conversations about books, and I'm trying to get some of them onto this. But it was really good. The action was nonstop. Love the female protagonist, Violet, in this book. It was so good. There's just the right amount of spice, not too much, lots of action, and highly recommend it.
You know what's funny about what you just said? Now I can't listen to anything else you say because I'm just picturing your clients just signing up to be your best friend for a week.
For the week of one-on-one coaching.
It's like you just get in this walkie-talkie app with Diane to talk about books for a week.
I mean, if that's how they want to use their time, they totally can. But I'll say like, all right, let's circle back to talking about your poop and your cycle. I'm obsessed with the women who have signed on for a week of one-on-one coaching. This is something that I introduced this summer because some people are like, you know what? I got a lot of stuff going on. I don't have the bandwidth for long Zoom calls or for appointments. And it's just so much more fun to get into this walkie-talkie app that we use versus like going to a stuffy, crusty office or, you know, maybe having a question and having to wait days for a response. So I hop in there throughout the week, and I'm also trying to get friends onto this app because audio message from iMessage is stupid.
You know what's funny?
And I love
I
Voxer.
used to love Voxer for like friend chatting too. Like before we started the podcast,
We
we
used
used to
to do
Vox
that.
all day. And it's gotten harder for me to do voice messaging.
Because you have three little
Yeah,
people?
like
or-
I feel like I can never turn on my audio on my end because like who knows what the sounds in this house are going to be. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can never listen. I don't like wear headphones on the regular anymore. I feel like,
Oh, me either.
yeah, and like,
I'm that person with the speakerphone, but I'm always at my house.
right.
So it's
I
not
don't
really.
know. It used to fit into my life better, and now I don't know. You know what I've been
miss it.
jamming on voice to text a lot.
Yeah, I noticed because sometimes there's like
Sometimes I spell
weird-
my kids' names wrong.
I'm like, I know she knows her kids' names. Yeah, I really love Voxer, but actually, now that you mentioned the background noise, I was Voxing one of the week of one-on-one cuties, and Doug just started chasing a squirrel mid-message, and I'm like, I'm not going to recall this. Like, they know Doug is going to be part of this coaching container, but just like 2 or 3 days in with a couple of them, and we already have uncovered some blind spots for them with their digestion, their cycle. I audited some supplements for them. One of them is traveling right now, so we were troubleshooting that. And then I also have some other one-on-one clients who are they're pregnant and navigating their second trimester, or they are going through some cycle stuff, and it's just I feel a lot more personal than like, you know, going to an office for an appointment, and a bit more casual. So yeah, we definitely have the book threads in there too.
Yeah. That's really nice. And the thing about this time in history is that we get to make the rules about how we run our practices. So
Isn't that fun?
we can use a walkie-talkie app and send like butt emojis. You know what I mean?
And I'll tell you this too. I was talking to one of them. We were talking about constipation, pelvic floor stuff, of course, naturally. And I think she said, I definitely have an issue with, as STHH and GYST would say, unclenching my butthole.
Yep. Many of us do.
So they know. They know. So yeah, shameless plug here. I have a couple of spots open. And I mean, you might think like, hey, I listen to GYST every week. I get a lot of value. Of course you do. We love it. But there is no replacement for hands-on, customized, one-on-one coaching. So I mean, already with some women who have listened to the show, have done work on their own, we get into this one-on-one container and uncover some really great approachable next steps for them so that they're not like spending their summer in Google or the Instagram coaching hole. Because, you know, some of y'all saving some posts and like the customization is not in those carousel posts. Mm-mm.
No, we need customization.
So what are you eating?
What was that?
I was going to ask what you're eating over there, but I guess you did tell me burgers.
I just ate a burger. Have I cooked anything interesting? I'm trying to think. I made some yummy cinnamon buns, but that's not new. Nothing new, I guess.
Same. Just going through the motions. But Trader Joe's JoJo's, which is like their gluten-free Oreo, doesn't matter if you're gluten-free or not. They taste good with peanut butter on top. That's my favorite little snacky.
So nice.
Sweet snacky.
Yeah, this is boring segment because I have nothing to say. I'm sorry.
You're like, same old.
Oh, you know what?
Right.
Let me say this because maybe someone doesn't know this. So I don't like ketchup.
I didn't know that about you.
And it's funny because Donnie also hates ketchup. So we just never have ever had ketchup in our fridge. And so like if someone wants to eat ketchup in our house, they just can't. But
bring your own.
I do like, which if you're looking for something yummy to like dip fries into, but you're not a ketchup gal, I like to put hot sauce into mayonnaise. And it's delicious. So I just did that today with some sriracha and mayo. Dipped a lot of fries in it, spread it all over my burger.
Oh, that sounds good. I do love a good aioli too. Like real garlicky, but also ketchup over here.
I don't know what it is about ketchup. It's not for me. Love barbecue sauce, love hot sauce. Something about ketchup.
So many sauces.
Ketchup's too sweet. I don't get it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like we both have had kind of a week. I have a headache, so I might be like doing a little massage here. Of course, after we talked about headaches, didn't we? Yeah, last episode. But, you know, sometimes the stress be stressing.
Yeah.
And we got to deal with it. But this week's kind of like tacking on last week's topic of, you know, recovery of...
Oh, wait.
What did we talk about last week? Yeah, we did. This week?
We talked about sweating on purpose.
Sweating on purpose,
But before we get into the episode, I do want to make a media recommendation.
Oh, okay.
This is like mac and cheese, which has been all the media that we've been consuming around here lately. We watched this show called Surf Girls Hawaii. Have you seen it?
No, I've not even heard.
Okay, it's on Prime Video. And it just follows a few girls who are...
Surf girls?
Mm-hmm. It follows a few surf girls who are surfing. It's like one competition season in the surf world. And you're just following these girls. And it was so delightful. Like, we started it as kind of like a, what's this? It's about surfing. Looks fun. And Donnie...
So are you going to take that up? I think... Do people surf in Tel Aviv?
They do. It's not great surf here, but I do very badly want to learn. It's something that, like, I was never a water sports person because we didn't live near the water and didn't go near the water very often. But I
believe
love to swim. Like, I was just a fish my whole life. So it's always hard for me to watch shows like this because I'm like, what could have been? Like, this would have been me if I grew up on an island, you know?
Are you the kind of Delulu where you watch this and you're like, I could have been a professional surfer if only I had known this was an option?
I'm not Delulu, Diane. That's absolutely what could have been. I'm an athlete and I love the water. Mm-hmm. It's like when I watched that, You remember when I watched that hunting show about Kimmy Swimmy and her spear fishing, and I was just like,
Yes. That's exactly what I was thinking of when you brought this up. Like, is Kimmy Swimmy in
I
here
need
somewhere?
to do this with the rest of my life.
This makes me want to watch Lilo and Stitch.
Yes, absolutely.
The soundtrack. Love that movie.
Yeah, it was fun. It's just like a
Elvis,
lot
yes.
about surfing, and like they talk about their Hawaiian culture, and I don't know, man, I really enjoyed it. When we started it, Donnie was like, this is terrible. And then by the third episode, he was like, can we watch the next one now?
Yes, I need a break from Bachelorette world because it's just such a snore.
Yeah, it's kind of in
these
between.
days.
It's kind of in between. It's like a little bit like that, but also is fun to watch people surfing. You should watch it.
Yeah, okay. I'll add it to the queue. Yeah, look at me. I was just trying to run into this episode. We can't forget the good media takes. So, yeah, if anyone has some good shows, send them my way. I'm about ready to add some TV in.
Yes.
But yeah, last week we talked about sweating on purpose, and we can't really talk about that without also thinking about recovery. And I told Adina after that episode, there are some things that I know we could have spent some more time on, but then we would have been serving you like a 2-hour episode. Babies were waking up. It's a full moon. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why Ori's partying hard at night. It's a full moon right now.
Oh no, does he have parasites?
Is he a werewolf?
The other logical conclusion.
Yeah, parasites or a werewolf, one of those. Yeah. I mean, brings out interesting people. I've been dealing with some interesting stuff this full moon. But this week we're going to be talking about recovery, and recovery around exercise, but also if you've dealt with like a physical injury and you're recovering from that, or maybe you're recovering from your sweaty ass workout and sweating on purpose after listening to last week's episode. So we've had some questions, Adina especially, around what do you mean by recovery?
Yes, this happens all the time.
So maybe intra workout or after, right? So like how do you recover from working hard, working sets, the power work you're doing in STHH, and what do you do like days in between?
Yeah. I talk a lot about recovery. I'm always saying things like, make sure you are recovering, or, and I've gotten quite a few questions on Instagram of like, what do you mean by recovery? Like, you talk about this, but like, what do you mean?
Recovery.
Yeah. So we thought it was a great idea to do this episode because it's such a big industry. Like, we see a lot of trends out there. I've made this joke before, but if you go into a lot of like sporting goods stores now or Target, it's like there's 2 tiny dumbbells and kettlebells like stooped in the corner of the aisle, and then the rest of the aisle is like foam rollers, Theraguns, massage balls. It's like, do we need to be doing all this recovery? Are we training hard to be warranting this? Like, perhaps our training is not working for us if the whole aisle is just recovery shit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is a lot of that. And actually, when I was home, my mom buys the most random stuff. And she's so sweet, like, bless her. But I'm packing up my things and she's like, oh, I found these finger weights. Would you like these? And I was like, what? Finger weights? And like,
no,
I don't know the motion, like what?
What do you, like, is it a thimble?
It was like a ring, but it had this weighted ball on it. And my dad is like, what possessed you to get that? So she's like, do you want this? And then she'll say, yeah, I have these snacks. Oh, I have this lotion. Do you want it? She's just trying to like give me things to bring home, but the finger weights. And I was like, I go a lot heavier than that.
Finger weights.
So I'm okay.
I was picturing thimbles. Like, she put them on her fingers. I was like,
it was bizarre. I mean, my thumbs have been working hard, like in the DMs or in Voxer, but they don't need it. So we're going to talk about some trends that we see out there. Maybe there are some products that you were eyeing that have been in your cart and you're not sure if you should add them into your routine. Maybe there's some things that you're already using that you could audit after this episode. So we're going to talk about what we mean, what Adina means by recovery, and break down some fads and facts for you this episode.
so I saw that sentence, fads and facts, out the corner of my eye in the outline, because as I mentioned with my setup right now, I'm just trying to figure it out. And the outline's...
Yeah, like where to look.
Yeah, the outline's not in a great place right now. And I did think that it said fads and farts. And I was like, did Diane put this in the outline just as a joke? for me.
Yeah, might have. On brand. Yes. So let's break it down for folks. What exactly is recovery when we're thinking about recovery from training?
Yes. So recovery means different things in different contexts. But for our purposes for this episode, I just want you to think about it as helping your body get back to baseline or get you to a place that like allows for adaptations. So if we think about our stress adaptation cycle, in order to gain a positive adaptation from training, you need a stressor that's like a Goldilocks stressor, because if it's not enough stress, it will not move the needle. If it is too much stress, you will not come back above baseline as a recovery from that. So we kind of have this general cycle of adaptation where we apply a stressor, we dip below the baseline while we are recovering from that stressor, and then we come up slightly above where we started. So if you look at this graph over time, if we are applying these very specifically measured stressors over time, that graph will go up and we will gain strength, gain power, get better. But that's how it looks on a micro scale. Like we apply a stressor, it's a Goldilocks amount of stress, we dip below that baseline while we're recovering, and then we come up higher on the other side of it. And it just keeps going on like that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see me do a nice little waveform graph.
Go up and it's up and it's up and it's stuck.
So it's
as
up
Cardi says.
and it's slightly down, and then it's slightly up, and then it's down again. So that's what it looks like. But the point is that we apply this stressor through our training. We dip below the baseline, and then we come out stronger on the other side of it. And this is important to mention, that little dip below the baseline, because I think things get very confusing on the internet. I know a lot of people are really starting to get more interested in their body temperature, which is amazing. And we love that for you. Body temperature is such an incredible marker for us to understand more about our health and our metabolism and our cycle.
Yes.
And if your body temperature is like plummeting, that can tell you a lot about the state of your metabolism. So
like you're 96.
Yeah, like I was seeing some 95s when I was really sleep deprived that week. I was like, am I a corpse?
Oh no. Am I dead?
High 95s, but like still, that's not a number you want to see. Anyways, so like we do want to see our temperatures high 97s, like 98.6 is a normal body temperature, but like that's plummeted over time because our metabolisms are shit garbage. But I see a lot of people advising on the internet, like, oh, you want your temperatures to be 97, 98. And if you do a workout and then your body temperature goes lower, that's a great way to know if the workout is not working for you. And that is true like over time. But if you like do the workout and take your temperature that night or the next morning, it might be lower because your body's using resources to recover. So you do want to see it trend up over time. Like I would say if it's still way low, like 2-3 days after your workout, that would be a sign that maybe that's not working for you, among other things that we'll look at. But it's not the only marker I would look at, because if you do that workout, take your temperature a couple hours later that night or even the next morning, that still might be your body recovering from that workout. So we would want to see that temperature come back up again. But again, there is a dip that happens while we are repairing what we have tore down during our workout.
Yes. Yeah, it's not, your temperature is not meant to be static, but as you were speaking there, I was thinking of that as just another case for women who want to improve their fertility, their cycle, and are like, oh, what can I do to, up my progesterone? Like what supplement might I need? What else am I missing? Muscle. Muscle building and maintaining it will start heating that body up overall over time. So, I mean, I'm sure I sound like a broken record in some client conversations, but I'm like, are we training? Are we training? Have we started strength training? So
are we training? And
that
like, can I
is
see your
so
phonogram?
overrated.
Because you might think
Yes,
it's
that.
strength training, but
Well, that's why I get so many of them. So many of my clients have moved into STHH, Adina's program, strength training for happy hormones. So I don't have to audit that program. I already know.
that's the best.
But yeah, other times they're like, oh yeah, I'm not an STHH, but I'm doing my own thing. I'm like, let me see. Because while I'm not a strength coach, I've worked with Adina and have been friends with her long enough that I can tell, like, this is where if I have my glasses on and I go, what is that? What are we doing here? That's not supportive of a menstrual cycle, baby.
We love it. Okay, so we're talking about recovery. We're talking about what it means. I would say most often, for most of our clients, in most cases, we can think about it as helping your body get, this is like immediately after training. What are we doing with our recovery? We are trying to help our body get back into a rest and digest state, right? Like, there should be some fight or flight happening while you're training. You want stress
While
hormones.
you're
You want to be working. I think that, again, in the holistic health space, we've gotten into this trap of thinking of like cortisol and stress hormones as this like dirty word.
Or that the sympathetic state is bad, naughty.
Yeah.
Like, never want to be there.
Exactly. Like, we want this to be a fluid thing where we can move in and out of different nervous system states. And we want some cortisol responses. Like, we've talked about this before when it comes to adrenals with many of our clients. Like, we used to look at Dutch tests all the time, and we would look at that cortisol awakening response. And some people just were like, oh, I feel so groggy in the morning. And like, yeah, you had no cortisol in the morning.
Where's your cortisol?
Yeah, like, we need cortisol too, you know? So stress hormones are important. It's important to mount stress hormones in response to stressors, and training is a stressor. It's just a matter of how much, and are we recovering from those stressors well? Like, are we teaching our body to build resilience in those situations, to respond well, to mount resources, and then to recover? So after we train, we want to make sure that we're getting back into a rest and digest state. And we do that in all of my programs by breathing at the end of our workouts, right? Making sure that we are not just like holding our breath and shallow breathing for the rest of the day, because sometimes it's okay to shallow breathe during a workout. Like, yes, when we're doing our slow and controlled strength work, or we're doing our slow and controlled movement prep, the emphasis is on really restorative breaths to get that diaphragm and pelvic floor communication, to tell our body, like, calm down, we're about to build something here, get us into a good nervous system state to start training. But then if you're doing an EMOM of single arm swings every minute on the minute, 5 to 10 swings, like, you should not be taking really deep 360 restorative breaths. Like, you want to be
There's no time.
Yeah.
There's no time for
Huffing
that.
and puffing is important. It's important to huff and puff sometimes. But at the end of all that, we want to relax the nervous system again, start to get that diaphragm moving, down train the pelvic floor a little, because many of us will leave our workout and just be like clenching that beehole for the rest of the day, and then be like, why am I constipated after my workouts?
Especially if you skip that breath work at the end, like, oh, well, I want to move on after my workout. I want to move back into my day. And you skip it. Meanwhile, holding onto your butthole and your pelvic floor.
Yep. Don't do that. So yeah, we want to promote that nervous system flexibility. We want to start getting you back into that rest and digest state. But just as a like recovery thing in general, not necessarily after training, there are some situations where recovery in my mind is thinking about like getting out of the rest and digest state, right? We've had some clients, like, we talk about these like slow metabolic types, and all your resources are pretty depleted. Maybe we don't have that cortisol awakening response in the morning, and we just feel super groggy when we wake up, and I just can't get it going, you know?
Yeah, feeling slow to start. I'm glad that you brought that up, because as you were talking about that flexibility of a nervous system state, HTMAs come to mind, because sometimes people think, oh, well, fast metabolizer, that's what I want to be. I want to be quick. And they're also equating like fast metabolism with skinny, some people, right? But we want to be able to move and have flexibility between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic state. So want to be somewhere more towards the middle to be balanced. But yeah, those slow metabolic types, they're really tired. Maybe their body feels cold. Maybe they are at like that 95, 96 temperature throughout their cycle. They're feeling like they're just really tired and fatigued a lot. So that's where strength training can be really beautiful, is to get you into that not stress state, the healthy stress state. Sympathetic.
And this right here is why I'm always talking about my program as like strength training for happy hormones versus what many people in the holistic health space are doing as like walking and yoga. Because so many of us have thought for a time like, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm in a healing state, I should just stick to walking and yoga. And I've had many conversations in the DMs, many conversations in the comment section of some of my more polarizing reels about these kinds of things. But people will say things like, well, what's wrong with just doing walking and yoga? Like, surely it can't be doing any harm, you know? But
like, we love those.
They're great, but there are so many cases where women are working so hard on healing and not working on resilience. Like, they're not introducing any healthy stressors and asking their body to recover from those. It's like they've only ever known either doing way too much, like that HIIT life, that CrossFit life, that bodybuilding life, where just the volume and the intensity were too much. So then they shift that pendulum so far the other way, where they're just not asking their body to mount any stress responses anymore. And it's like, no wonder you are dragging. You know, we need to introduce some healthy stress to get it going. So yeah, that's a big piece.
So that's one of our big fads and facts is restorative exercise. You might have heard, especially in the holistic space. Well, Doug has something to say about it, right? He just burped. We call that burping when he's like it's under his breath. I know. So in the holistic space, you've probably heard, well, restorative exercise, walking, yoga, stretching. We go into more detail about all of those in a few of our past episodes from season 2 that I'll link in the show notes, especially stretching and yoga. So if you feel like you need to do more of those, or you're in a season where you're trying to recover, you need that gentle exercise. Strength training, when it's programmed correctly, is restorative.
So true. The last thing I just want to mention here is when we're thinking about recovery, we're thinking about taking the body from that catabolic state, so catabolic being breaking tissue down, into that anabolic state, so building muscle. I think something that people miss the mark on just in the language of things is when they think that they are like building muscle during their workouts. And yes, you are taking the action steps during your workouts to build muscle, but what your body is actually doing is breaking down in that actual workout, and the building, the recovery, the muscle building happens after the fact when we replenish, when we sleep. Well, we're going to break down all the recovery stuffs shortly, but we are using our recovery tools to get our body into that state of building, that anabolic state of metabolism.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good myth busted there, because I could see how people might think that the opposite is true, that you're building up muscle actively when you're in that workout. But all the more reason to have proper recovery after your strength training. So let's move into some more fads and facts. And these are in no particular order. We just kind of listed some of these out here. And this first one we touched on in our last episode 95, Sweating on Purpose. And that's popular electrolyte packs. So what are our picks, our passes? When do these have a place? So this is something that people might bring in intra-workout or afterwards to hydrate. And I like where their head is at. They're like, I need to be hydrated. Maybe they've listened to our Hydration Nation episode, or they know just pure water isn't cutting it. And so they're adding in something here. And there are so many brands to choose from. And what they're trying to do and what they're claiming to do is amp up your hydration by giving you these minerals we need that are lost through sweat, that are lost through stress, right? And sometimes they have added flavor and they make their packaging look all sexy and maybe have some other claims too. I thought this was funny that I was thinking of water additions growing up, or packets that I'd put into water. And I remember starting from Crystal Light, and now we're here. Like,
I think people are
don't
still
even think
using
they're electrolytes.
Crystal Light.
They are. I saw them when I was walking down the grocery store aisle, and I think I added it just to flavor my water. And from there, last episode, we talked about Gatorade and vitamin water that we would drink when we're not exercising. It was just like, I don't know, didn't want water and wanted icy blue mountain freeze, whatever the hell it's called.
What were I feel like vitamin water had silly names. Were they like they were
It
like
did.
punny, right?
Like, yeah, and they always had something like, not a story, but something on the side. Does 50 Cent own vitamin water?
Does he?
He might. I don't know. I thought a rapper owns it, but either way, I started with Crystal Light, and then I remember when did Ebola happen? Was that like 2013, 2014, somewhere around there?
Yeah. Maybe it was even
Somewhere around
I
there.
feel like it was earlier because I feel like there were jokes about it in Friends. I feel like season 10 of Friends had jokes about
Oh
it.
no. Oh, that scared me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember someone talking about these things called Recover ORS back then. And this is before any of these packets that we see today were available. And Neil ordered a bunch. And we bought them because they were like, these are given to Ebola patients to help them rehydrate. And I was like, oh, well,
They must be good.
must be good. They tasted okay. And I think I used them once after like food poisoning. I don't even know if they're around anymore, but the ingredients aren't great. And that was before learning a lot about electrolytes and hydration. But now there are so many options. They've just kind of exploded. So last episode, I think we mentioned element, take the vowels out of it.
Because we're
Makes
cool.
it extra cool. Yeah. Liquid IV. That's one that I get a lot of questions about in the DMs. It's one that is stocked at Costco. Needed is out there. I think some people still pre-game, post-game with Pedialyte after drinking.
I was asking about that. Like, do people still do that?
Yeah. And another one on our radar was Drip Drop, which I haven't heard of, but Adina said the youths really like this one.
Yeah, my nieces were talking about this, and then one of my cousins was joking that it sounded like a drug from the show Riverdale.
So you can take some Drip Drop.
But yeah, the youths,
Yeah.
I think the youths are using Drip Drop.
Just on the daily outside of workout recovery.
I need you to please read the ingredients for Drip Drop.
Yeah, Drip Drop.
It takes like
Here we
6
go.
ingredients to even get to an electrolyte.
Yeah, which means that there probably aren't as many of them. Okay, dehydration relief, fast. Let's shop the flavors. Okay, I'm looking at the best sellers here. We've got, a juicy variety. Just show me your ingredients. Why do they bury these?
Just nobody cares.
Yeah. Oh, and I see someone giving some kids a packet here. Oh my gosh, all the pop-ups. They're so aggressive.
They're for the youths.
They really hide them. Like, it doesn't tell me what's in there. Frequently asked questions. What the cuss is in there? We'll go to Google.
I think you found it on
Boop,
Amazon.
boop, boop. Oh, Uncle Jeff.
Uncle Jeff always listing out those ingredients.
Yeah, and then now I'm going to get ads for all of these. Drip, drop.
I'm waiting for Element to reach out to us as a podcast sponsor and us be like, but can you just change the formula real quick?
Oh, yeah, we'll come back to that one. Someone actually reached out to the brand and then sent me the response, and it's probably buried somewhere in my screenshots. And she's probably listening to this like, it was me. Okay, Drip Drop Hydration. Here we go. Inside it, we've got sugar, fructose, sodium citrate, citric acid, potassium citrate, magnesium citrate, natural flavor, dextrose, fruit and vegetable juice for color, salt, ascorbic acid, vitamin C, sucralose. So we have some corn-derived ingredients in here.
Many sugars.
With the dextrose. Yeah, many sugars. Which, I mean, if you are using this intra-workout, post-workout, want to replenish some sugar, but I think I'd rather have that via food.
I would literally just do
I know I would.
salt and sugar, like at that point, just put
Yeah,
some salt and sugar in your water and that will be the same. Save you money.
Right. But do these have a place in each of them? So whether that's Element, Liquid IV, Needed, or any of these, they have different ratios of different electrolytes. So you often see sodium, potassium, you might see magnesium in there, but don't love the ratios that are given. Now, I'm going to butcher this, and whoever did send me that DM that I can't find about Element is maybe going to be shaking her fist or her salt at us. Element, I do like for their ingredients. I know some people have mixed feels about it, but considering all the other options out there, they're not bad. It's from Rob Wolf, who, I trust his intentions, his product formulation. It is really high in sodium. And so for that reason, I don't love it. But if you are someone who's training and sweating profusely, you're losing that sodium. So maybe that's a place that you could bring this in if you are saunaing, doing some of that before. But I also should have prefaced this section with, I don't think any of these are essential. Like if you have sea salt, you've got some citrus, you've got some coconut water, like you can make yourself a recovery beverage. Some of these are nice for, if you're recovering from illness, if you are training and sweating profusely, using that now and then, but it's not something that I would say you need to use day in, day out, multiple times a day.
Travel can be really helpful, especially because that could be really dehydrating. The other thing too is like if you're in a season where dehydration is high and like you just can't keep up with the recovery beverages, like I had terrible sleep last night. Ori was just partying from like 10:45 to like 3 a.m. It was supremely rough. And it's 1 billion degrees here. We spent the afternoon at the beach. I did train slow and steady this morning. I had about like 4 upgraderades today. And I'm nursing also round the clock. So I think it's important. Like if you're in a nursing season where you just can't keep the ingredients stocked in your fridge enough, or it's hot, you're training, you're sweating, you're nursing, like sometimes having these packets on hand can be really convenient and helpful. Personally, I wouldn't choose any from the list that we mentioned. Like I wouldn't turn to any of these packets as like the solution. The only one that's close enough for me is the brand Jigsaw makes one that's close enough, but it's still not nearly the potassium that I personally need. And I have found most people need more potassium than what's in there. And even some people need more sodium than what's in there. So sometimes I'll use that and add a source of potassium, add a source of sodium. But yeah, like in this season for me, where I can only make so many fruit juice drinks during the day and I still need something else, like that goes in my water every day with some added salt or another source of potassium. But that's the only one that's come close enough for me to even have on hand.
Yeah, without seeing someone's HTMA, it's hard. But now, having looked at so many of them, when I see these, they are very high in sodium for the most part. And I'll see some HTMAs where potassium's just bottomed out. And maybe they have a lot of sodium, so I don't want to further throw that out of balance. And that's where we'll customize drinks for them. It's not to say that we don't still need sodium, but potassium is where is she? So we want to think about that. I like Element for travel. I've seen my HTMA and I might customize it based on my needs, adding more coconut water. But these aren't things to add in willy-nilly either, or like, oh, I heard about it on Instagram, so I must have to add it in. I have had some people who are like, well, Element didn't work for me. And then they tell me about it, or some of these packets. I added it to water and I had diarrhea. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that can be too fast, too soon, or maybe the ratio is just off for you. And yeah, not something that I would think as a priority supplement when I'm looking at someone's overall HTMA, overall presentation. Like this isn't the first thing I would add in. So yeah, it can be helpful after travel. I've brought it along after we've had those long flights. And sometimes I'll do half a packet, or I might do a packet like before sauna. And then otherwise just making some drinks at home. So sometimes the cost of the convenience, I understand. Liquid IV, I don't like their ingredients. They add some other junk in there. Pedialyte, as a no for me. Gatorade, definitely hard no. So as often as I can, I want to make my own upgraderade and consider what I'm working on with my personal HTMA results. And I do the same for clients too.
Yeah, so quick sum up on this section. Probably pass on most of the market supplements for this, but remember that when you are training, you are losing sodium and potassium. So that is definitely something you would want to focus on as one of the prongs of your recovery strategy. You want to make sure that you're getting back some of that salt, potassium. We'll get into some other pieces of the nutrition puzzle.
And beyond drinks too, I know we spent some time on drinks, is it doesn't just have to come from drinks too. If you're someone who is still currently eating a lot of bread, pasta, wheat, maybe even some grains like rice, but you're not getting a lot of root veggies or fresh fruit, especially while it is still pretty hot most places, those are some things not to overlook, right? Because what I don't want for people to do is think, oh yeah, Element, it's so popular, I can get this pack with this code on Instagram. Meanwhile, you're skipping over a nutrient dense, very colorful diet. So that's really important to think about too.
Yes.
Yeah. This next one, I know we talked about last episode, right? Yeah, sweating on purpose. And we've definitely talked about it in, I think, our big stretch episode.
Oh, no, we didn't talk about it in sweating on purpose. We talked about it in things we've changed our minds about.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, 2 episodes ago in episode 94. Yeah. So foam rolling. Oh, sometimes I'm going to call myself out here. It just hurts. It just hurts good. But this is definitely no longer a main. But tell us about why do people think this is an essential part of recovery?
I think people just feel really toy after their workouts because either they are not taking things through full range of motion, they are overtraining and not managing stress as well with load, volume, rest periods, the like. Perhaps it's a mineral issue also. Like we kind of need minerals for fascia, muscles, everything to recover really well. So it could be on the nutrition side of things. But if you feel like foam rolling is an essential for you to recover from your workouts, let's consider if your workouts are working for you.
Yeah. And actually, before we hopped on to record, I was looking through some HTMAs because everyone's results that did the one-on-one intensive or HTMA results review, like results are trickling in around the same time.
Always do.
And yeah, so there are a couple of cases where people were saying like joint pain and muscle recovery, like I just feel in pain often. And then I'll often see real high calcium on their results. And not only is that a sedative mineral once it starts to accumulate and causing like fatigue, you're having trouble getting insulin, using insulin, having trouble getting thyroid hormone in the cell, so you feel tired. But people also might report that they are dealing with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, or just like muscle weakness and recovery. And I noticed that as we're able to break that down and bring other minerals into balance along with the calcium, then they don't feel as creaky or experience as much pain after their workouts too. Also need to have a good program, but that's a big piece that's often overlooked.
That's awesome. And oh man, what episode did we talk about this on? It had to have been either season 1 or 2 because I'm having a visual memory of being like sitting in my office in New Jersey when we were recording this. And we talked a lot about calcium and how people will throw calcium supplementation at brittle bones. And do you remember, there's no way, that 30 Rock bit?
The calcium chews?
No.
Oh,
that
no.
really weird 30 Rock bit where Alec Baldwin's dating that girl who's like, I have fragile bones. You know what I'm talking about?
No, but that reminds me of a reel. Oh my gosh. Tangent here. But it seems like there are so many fantasy books where the female protagonist is always very petite and her bones might break. Like the lead in Fourth Wing, I think she's petite and her shoulder always gets popped out of place when they're sparring on the mat, and she just seems very breakable. And it seems like that's the case for several fantasy female protagonists. I don't know why.
Well, we want to be unbreakable.
brittle bones.
I've got fragile bones. So yeah, there's many people who will throw a calcium supplement at fragile bones. We've been in continuing educations before where we talk about our postmenopause clients, and our mentors wanted to recommend like 3 different bone building supplements for those clients. And I would never do something so irresponsible before implementing strength training, because even if you are throwing calcium at someone, if you are not teaching the body how to use it and how to lay down new bone, it is useless. So
lay down those bones.
Yes. Lay them down. Yeah.
But also where's that milk and where's that magnesium?
Yeah.
You know?
It's not just like throw a calcium supplement at it, which my pediatrician thought was the answer. I had many Vita-Chews and many Tums that I can still taste in my mouth right now.
Ew.
Ew. Ew.
Yeah, so let's wrap up the foam rolling here. It might feel good.
That's fine.
But
it's fine if it feels good, if you enjoy
that's
that
fine.
nervous system side of things. We need that.
Yeah, but there are some other ways to go about avoiding that tightness and that pain, and also really comes down to what's your program like, what's the mobility work like in your program, right?
Yeah.
Because that can make a huge difference. It certainly has for me. I really love, some of my favorites right now are like the Halo.
Yeah.
My shoulder just popped when I did that. that's not the proper form, but I'm like somewhere like something like that. And then the windmill.
Oh yeah, that is the best.
Really liking that right now.
Yeah, that is the best. And if you want to hear more about the foam rolling conversation, go back to things we've changed our mind about. I think that was in part 2. And go back to our big stretch episode. Did we do a separate recovery episode also? I think we did like a recovery do's and don'ts, or is that the same episode?
We've done so many,
I'll have to
I
fact
don't
check
know. We need like an assistant.
Yeah. Same vein. Next up is massage and chiropractic.
Massages and adjustments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me pause for 1 second. I'm sure we have some lovely chiros listening to this. I'm sure. If they haven't gone running after some of our previous episodes where we talked about chiropractic. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some sweeties out there. How do I say this gently? Perhaps if you are a chiropractor listening to this, you will open your heart and your mind to incorporating strength training into your practice, because I really think that chiropractic as an industry just needs a makeover. I think that there are some wonderful chiropractors out there that are nervous system focused, that maybe implement strength training as a large branch of their work, that are just really focused on helping people feel better. And body work can be great. Like sometimes you just need hands on body, and that can really do wonders for people's nervous system states, especially if they're not getting enough hugs, or if the only touch they're experiencing is just like being way too touched out from their children. I do think that there is power in that. But unfortunately, there are many chiropractors out there who are just disempowering their patients' clients on the regular, and are, taking these x-rays and pointing to all these things and saying that that's subluxation and this spine shape and that's the reason for your pain, and I have these magic hands and I'm going to fix you with all these adjustments once a week for 10 months, Yeah,
just me. And you don't have, and definitely huge red flag. Like someone in my family was going to one and they didn't ask for my advice, so I kept it to myself. But I was like, what do they have you do in between appointments? And they're like, nothing.
Yeah.
Avoid strength training and tell me to come back next week.
Yeah.
For like 10 months. And that is a big red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are all kinds. I'm going to call myself out here in this segment because I know that we were doing the podcast by the time I was doing this back in 2021. So I went to one who I still find value, and I'm glad that I went to this chiro. It was an Atlas orthogonal chiropractor where they don't crack your back. That was something I knew I didn't want, was for them to be cracking my back, cracking my neck, where they basically tap on your neck with some device. But one of the guys in that practice I liked because he was a former athlete, and we would talk about strength training. And I remember I showed him our podcast when I was seeing them, and we talked about kettlebell training, and he loved that. So he was like, keep that up. And he would just tell me, how to try to avoid pain with some of the postures I was using. I was also going to the beach when I was going out there. But then now looking back, there are things I didn't like about that experience, like the imaging that we did. I think it was cool. It was for them a selling point to get me to come in. But now I think I might have gone for a couple of times if I was really going in acute pain, but really doubling down on the strength and the mobility instead.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this when it comes to supplementation and when it comes to certain approaches in like a quote unquote healing phase. I think there is something to be said about the stamina for healing. Like there are some people that are so fearful of movement because of pain that they've experienced. And pain science is like a whole fascinating thing. But I do think that chiropractic is a great experience if it gives someone the stamina for strength training. Like if it takes a person who was in pain, helps them to find an experience that's pain-free, and then encourages them to ride that train and build strength with this newfound confidence in their body, in movement. But I don't think we need necessarily chiropractic as part of that equation. I think if it's a strength-focused rehab professional who can create that pain-free or lowered pain experience through movement, that's even better. If the entry point is through loaded mobility, through strength, I think that there are some manual approaches that can be part of that gateway, like creating the opportunity for some space and some movement. And those are really the rehab professionals that I gravitate towards, are the ones who are strength focused and are using strength to create these avenues to build confidence in people. So people have confidence in themselves, because that's what it's all about. If a practitioner is showing someone pictures of their body and saying, here's all of the things that's wrong with you and all the things that are broken about you and all the things that are subluxated and all the things that are fused, or this is where your lumbar curve is reversed and you're, like that stuff just gets me so angry. Stop disempowering these people. Stop telling them they're broken. Or I hesitate to use the word dysfunction. Like when I'm talking about pelvic floor, it's just the easiest way to explain it. But I just don't like people walking away thinking they're dysfunctional. It's like, it's so... words are powerful. And I think that in a rehab setting, we need to be really careful with the things we let people hear about their own bodies.
Totally. Yeah. So if that chiropractor that you're seeing is what you would consider your main help, your main support to get you out of pain, let's rethink that.
Yeah.
I, like Adina was saying earlier, like maybe if it helps give you the stamina and you're going now and then, like, but you're also approaching it with the idea of this is helping me so that I can get better at movement, at getting back to my routine. That's good. I remember when I was going through more of these treatments, seeing this chiropractor, it was 2021. I had a lot of stress, as a lot of us did. It was still in the panini. And so I remember when I was dealing with a lot of neck pain, I think that there was value in it, but there are definitely some things that if I were going into it fresh again, I would approach differently and not go at so long. But I have had clients and friends who are like, oh, I need to go to the chiropractor to set me right. And meanwhile, not realizing their own power in taking back their pain into building strength, but maybe they're not open yet to that being the reality instead, Yeah,
that's why it's tricky. And again, if people have had a positive experience with it in the past, they might be kind of like clinging to that and thinking that's the thing that makes them feel better. So it's tricky. My friend Andy is a great physical therapist, and I think he's the first person I heard say this, but when he was talking about pain, he said pain doesn't have one root cause. It has multiple potential instigators. And I think that's really helpful in thinking about these things and thinking about recovery, because it's not like this chiropractor points to this one thing on an image, or even like this MRI that this doctor made me get, you know. I think imaging can be really confusing, but there's a lot of really great research about tons of stuff we were seeing on people's spines that led to no pain, and tons of people who were in pain that had nothing showing up on the imaging. So
you're right, it's not a perfect assessment tool.
Exactly.
I did feel like all proud of myself when he said something like that my spine and posture look like a lot younger than I am. Something like that. And I was like,
well, thanks.
Oh. Yeah, I'm strong.
Yeah, I think it's important to think about pain in that way, because we did an episode recently about pain. We can link in the show notes, but it's not this like, oh, we cracked the case. Like, here's the thing.
And your back.
We cracked the case. We cracked your back. Here's the thing that was causing the pain. It's like, you know, for yourself, there's many potential instigators. It's like, I was stressed, or I am ovulating, or I, you know, like there's a couple of things that are contributing, or I was dehydrated, you know, like there's a couple of things, and we have all these different tools to get after it and to get ourselves feeling better. And we did mention massage. I don't want to completely lump it in there because it does a little bit different, but yeah, massages can feel great. Again, touch is wonderful. That can be like a lovely, relaxing experience. Like if you're at a spa resort, don't not get the massage. But if you need to rely on massage as your recovery strategy, I again invite you to audit your training and wonder if this is working for you. I know when I was solely doing barbell lifting, and there was a lot of other things with wrong with my routine at the time, but I like craved massages all the time. Like at any moment, I could need a massage desperately. You know, like I always felt like my back needed some work. That shouldn't be the case. If you are properly using load with a good load and volume, through full ranges of motion, you shouldn't feel like you always need a massage.
Mm-hmm. So nice to have in the values of touch, and especially if you are single or haven't had the touch that you need. We all need physical touch, and we all need hugs. Then massages are really lovely. So I really love them because I love touch. Mm-hmm. But if you feel like you are choosing that in order to feel good and out of pain, then let's rethink that a little bit more.
Yeah.
The last note I wanted to make here about chiropractors in general, because yes, there are some lovely ones, but it's also very broad in that I'll hear from some people, oh, I'm seeing my chiropractor for, you know, my gut stuff. And some have done, like we have, ongoing ed, and I mean, I've partnered with one or seen one locally who I respect, who's aware of some of the testing and approaches the same in a similar fashion. But then I'll also meet with clients in the past who their chiropractor suggested to them like 20 supplements, and they're trying to help them with their gut health. But I'm like, what the hell happened? Why do they have you on 20 supplements?
Yeah. And
what is going on here? So it really can vary, and that's where you have to like look at their actual experience and if it's a good fit for you.
Yeah, we've done some episodes about that, but yeah, it's frustrating that there's pros and cons to there being no standard of practice for functional medicine.
Totally. Yeah. For sure. This next one we definitely talked about last episode, but I know at length. And also on our wellness stuff worth the hype, because this one is an it depends thing, like many things. So sauna for recovery. So maybe you get your workout done at the gym, and then your gym also has a sauna. So then you go and sit in there for a while. Maybe you're also going hard in that you are doing sauna and cycling between that and a cold shower. So that's something that I hear a lot. And that is something that would maybe be on the don't side, which is, going so hard, sweating it out after you've already sweat out in your workout. And so many people are under or inappropriately hydrating themselves when they are doing these things. So something to think about. As far as my pick for sauna, though, on the flip side, if you're going to use them responsibly, you are hydrating appropriately before and after. And if you're someone who's high stress, maybe you're tabling this until you can get that mental stress into a good place. I really like TheraSage or TheraSage. I still, to this day, don't know how they actually pronounce it.
You have to reach out to them.
Yeah, I'm sure I should know because I think I'm an affiliate with them. In full transparency, I do love my TheraSage, my portable pop-up infrared sauna, because we don't have space in our home for a traditional sauna as Neil would like. But this, I can set it up in like 3 minutes in my office. It looks like a little spaceship. And I like this because it doesn't heat you up as aggressively as a traditional sauna. So if you are someone who is trying to gently bring this back in, I like that. I can start it on a low temp. And I, even at that low temp, I'm only in there when I've used it lately for like 15, 20 minutes. And the old me would be like, well, I didn't get a rolling hot sweat. I need to stay in here for 30 or 40 until I start sweating. But I mentioned last episode, I've kind of taken it out for a little bit because I'm in such a high stress season right now that I don't think that the sauna is helping me. So I can pack it away nicely and then bring it back when I do want to use it. And then I do like the red light for healing. So for me, one of my stress sirens that I've worked through is sometimes I'll get breakouts. So I like to, especially if I just got a treatment or if I have something that she worked on, like sit near the red light that is included in my sauna. So TheraSage, I really like that if you're going to use it responsibly.
Nice. On the opposite side, are people still doing cryo chambers? I know that was
I don't know. I know
really
they still
trendy.
exist. But
Yeah. That was really trendy for a little. Is
true.
cold plunging the new cryo?
I think it is.
I feel like it's
more accessible too. Like you could get a tub or
one of those little ice
like
barrels.
a vessel. Yeah. And just dunk yourself in it.
Yeah. So a thing about this, cold plunging is a shock to the nervous system. So just like with the sauna conversation, I would ask if this is something that you can tolerate right now. What we're seeing is that people love the feeling of a nervous system shock. Is it interesting that a lot of the people using the sauna and the ice plunging, especially using them back to back in intervals, are also the people that are like addicted to high intensity workouts? Yeah.
Interesting. So is it the shock? Is it the cortisol? What is it?
Maybe. I mean, it feels really good to just get like that cold shock to the face. But
wake your ass up.
Yeah, I think that speaking to ourselves as functional practitioners, I see a better use case for this is if you are going to use cold plunging, I would, instead of the like dunk and be like, I would encourage you to make it look as though you're not in a cold plunge. Like task yourself with getting in there and regulating your breath work, regulating your nervous system, calming yourself amid a shock and stressor. I think that
I have a friend who does this, and she records herself doing it, and I see her doing like deep breathing when she's in there.
Yeah. That can be a really great nervous system exercise to experience a stressor and be able to calm the nervous system, overcome that stressor and tell your body like, we're safe, we're okay. That's like the kind of nervous system game you can play in a cold plunge that can be a little more beneficial from my perspective. Again, it can be a tool. Do you need it? Probably not. And there's a couple of other things I want to talk about here also. But do we need to invest in a cold plunge, or do we need to keep paying a membership at like a sexy place in New York City that has cold plunges? Or do we perhaps just need to like turn our shower to cold for a few seconds and give ourselves that shock in that way for free?
I do like a cooler rinse in the shower on my hair at the very end.
Yeah, you know, here we have to turn on our boiler 20 minutes before we want to shower, so sometimes I get a cold plunge by accident if I forgot to do that.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, but again, do you need it? No. Can it be a tool and a great exercise to use sometimes? Yes. Another note on that though, and I'm happy I remembered to mention this too. Aspirin can be very trendy in like the metabolic health space as a tool. And I have thoughts about that, but I would just caution you to not use something like that. And I'll tell you why they're the same. Right after training. So sometimes we see people at these fancy gyms where they're training and then they jump in the cold plunge, or, you know, that's part of the routine. But what you want to remember is that there is a breaking down of tissues that happens when we're training. And then the inflammatory response is an important piece of our body bringing the blood and the resources to our tissues to repair them, to shift into that anabolic, to start rebuilding after your workouts. If you blunt the inflammatory process with something like aspirin or something like cold plunge, same thing with ice packs. I don't recommend ice pack at the onset of injury. And the science is really changing around this. I know in the past, everyone remembers like the acronym RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. But that actually slows the healing process because we're blunting that natural inflammatory process that brings the resources to the tissues to heal them. So would I recommend jumping into a cold plunge after your training session? Probably not. We don't want to blunt that very important inflammatory response that's going to help us build muscle. So consider that.
Right. Inflammatory response and inflammation is not always bad.
Yeah.
We always talk about lowering inflammation, right? But we want to have that appropriate response. So I'm glad that you remembered to bring that up.
Yeah,
totally. And I think that this got really popular too with all of the biohacking podcasts out there.
Oh, yeah.
And on TikTok, there's a Huberman husband trend. Like, here are some biohacking things I've implemented because my husband's been listening to these 6-hour-long podcast episodes. And it's like, hold your horses. He does have some good tips, but yeah, some of them go too hard. And when we were talking about cold plunging, this isn't quite recovery, but I don't think we've ever talked about it. Didn't talk about it on our wellness products episode either, is the float tanks. So that's not necessarily for recovery, but that is something that I'm glad to see popping up a bit more. And people might have mixed feels in there because you're in the dark. You're in a enclosed tub with a shit ton of magnesium. And so for some people that might feel claustrophobic. For me, I thought it would. It feels more expansive to me because you are floating in basically a womb. It's like the temperature, the water is intended to be the temperature of like your body. So I really like it. I don't use it for recovery, but when I've been in a really stressy season and I just want some quiet and some space to clear my head and think creatively, I've liked that 1 hour long session in a float tank or a sensory deprivation tank. Just like slather my whole body in so much magnesium. That's what that's all about. Mm-hmm. Don't shave your legs or your body hair before going in there.
Yeah.
And don't touch your eyes. But yeah, that might be something if that's just something you want to try. But yeah, not a recovery tool. Nice, quiet space tool.
What season of Dave was that where he goes into the float tank? Was it season 2 or 3?
I don't know. I think I just started season 2 and I don't remember seeing that.
There's one episode with the float tank. Alternatively, if you want magnesium rich waters that are the temperature of your body, you can come to Tel Aviv in the summer.
Oh, and go to the I thought you were going to go a lot more practical and say run yourself a bath.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Or you could go to the Dead Sea.
Yeah, I know. The Dead Sea is literally a float tank. No, but we spend every day in the sea now that I'm like, do I need to be putting magnesium in my shower anymore? Like, we're in the salty waters, the warm, salty waters every day. It's so nice.
Yeah, which magnesium topically is great for recovery, is muscle achiness, for cramps. Now I know some people have heard magnesium's great, so they start supplementing with it hard.
Careful now.
Baby, careful. Remember what we said about about unopposed vitamin and mineral supplementation because we don't want to throw our other minis, our other minerals out of balance. So yeah, I don't like to have people go hard on magnesium supplementation, but float tank, getting in a bath here and there. Cool. This next one
It's a dumb one. I just wanted to nod to it.
but I have heard about this.
Yeah.
I think a physical therapist I was seeing, they had it and they look silly.
Yeah, it's those thigh high recovery boots that you like plug in and they just like are compressive and such. I think they're like $1,000 for a pair of the boots. So
Those boots were not made for walk-in either, were
no, they were made for recovering. And my question is, are you a professional athlete like that has to play a really intense playoff game and then immediately get on a plane and play another one? Like, what are we doing?
Because if not,
and you think you need these boots, then let's take a look at your program and see what about it is not working for you.
So are people buying these and this physical therapist had it and I saw a patient was in it, right? And they're reclined. But are people buying these for their own personal use at home? Is that something you can do?
Okay, I'm jaded because I'm friends with a lot of trainers. So like some trainers buy them to use in their homes. Are the average fitness consumer buying them in their home? I sure hope not. I hope the marketing is not there to get people to think they need these.
I need this in my hyperbaric chamber and I need my own float tank at home and
then I will be recovered.
And then
Yeah, I don't know. It's dumb. I think it's mostly about getting blood flowing. So like maybe you need to add in a recovery day to your program if you need an extra blood flow day. Maybe you need to hike a little, or you need to add in a low intensity day where you just do a lot of like lower load, high rep stuff and move through different movement patterns, maybe some loaded mobility, just get the blood flowing.
definitely loaded mobility.
Yeah, maybe you need to do a simple and sinister one day a week where you just swing and do some Turkish get-ups. Like, there's many other ways to get blood flowing than paying for some dumb boots.
Yeah, dumb boots, or spend $1,000 on like some really cool, like, I don't know, glitter boots or something.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all the Taylor Swift tour outfits and I saw some cool boots. But I don't know.
Wait, no, I just want to say one thing about that. If you have bought these boots and you haven't done STHH, return them and use the money to buy STHH.
Yeah, buy STHH and buy it for a friend because you'll have enough to do both, you know? I can't believe that we didn't list this here, but before we round out this whole episode, you mentioned Theragun and massage guns, but I know that is really popular for recovery, so let's spend a second on that. I feel like they really had a moment a couple years ago and it was like everyone was ordering one on Prime Day, a Theragun or a knockoff. I had my in-person trainer used it on me once and I was like, this feels good, but also like, why not just get a plug-in Hitachi personal massager? Maybe try that. And it has other applications if you really need to loosen up and recover in your day-to-day life.
We probably should have put that on this list, honestly.
Get yourself a vibrator instead of a Theragun.
That'll get your progesterone right up.
Yeah. Some people really need it. Get it.
Yeah, I think I should have lumped that into the massage category also, but same deal. If you are feeling like everything is a knot and you need all the massage tools, or
you gotta break up the fascia,
gotta break it up, then yeah, again, let's take a look at your program, see what's going on there.
I mean, it felt fun. It was kind of like made me laugh because I think that my coach had brought it to the gym when I was training in person, and I think we used it on my back, and I'm like, yeah. But I think I'd rather just have a massage.
Yeah, same. That sounds nice. Like, get me some strong elbows digging into my back instead.
I think when we went to Mohonk Mountain House, so
the best.
Lovely massage. So it was, oh my God, 2 years ago now.
That's
disgusting.
devastating.
And I told my masseuse I like strong pressure, and she was petite, had small hands, and I thought maybe she's got fragile bones,
bones.
You know, Violet from Fourth Wing. And she's massaging me, and she leans in because I think I was like grunting because the pressure was strong. Those hands, I underestimated. She's like, "Would you like me to adjust my pressure? I think you need something lighter." And I'm like, I want to hurt after this massage.
Thank you. Keep going.
Yes.
All right. So, shall we round it out with the facts now that we have given you the farts?
Yeah. Now that we've given you the farts. Yes, let's do it. Yes, yes.
Okay. So, here's how you actually recover from your workout. Here are all the recovery tools you need. Okay. Number 1 is sleep. And we know sometimes this is out of your control. For example, in my case, where my son just likes to hang out with me 24 hours a day. So he insists on being awake all night. But yeah, get as much sleep as you can. Get to bed earlier if you have small people that wake you up early in the morning or in the middle of the night. Just do your very best to get the best sleep that you can. Use those cave down and cool down tactics we talked about. You can check out the GYST mini course for an entire module on setting the best sleep environment and strategies to get you the best sleep. But sleep is so important. All recovery processes happen while we're sleeping. Like, we need to get that quality sleep to recover. And then the second most important thing is eat enough food. And that may be way more than you think you need to be eating. If you are training hard, if you are nursing, if you are under a lot of stress, if you are not sleeping well, you probably need even more calories.
And if you're not sleeping well, you're going to notice a preference for carbs because your lizard brain's like, we can get that simple carb, that simple energy real quick, but definitely want to be logging the sleep so that your blood sugar is a bit more stable and you're not having trouble with those blood sugar roller coasters.
Yeah, if I have had a really shitty night of sleep with Ori, Donnie knows to bring me a croissant on the way home from dropping the kids off.
Woof.
Yeah. Okay. Very important conversations within the eat enough food category is eat enough protein. If you are trying to recover from workouts and build muscle, you need to be eating enough protein. I would go back and listen to our Your Breakfast Sucks episode because we definitely talked about it a lot in there, but upwards of 100 grams of protein. And
working your way there if you've been skimping. We're definitely going to be focusing on this breakfast, in particular eating enough habits in my upcoming workshop, which will be, I think I have it now, end of August. I forgot about Labor Day, so it actually might be right after Labor Day. So if you want some accountability and some tippies beyond what we've covered here, we'll be going into that in the workshop for sure.
Yes, everyone probably needs to be eating more protein than they think. Animal protein specifically. And again, that's not just 5 scoops of collagen throughout the day, chew animal protein. And then carbs. Also, Diane and I were just talking about how maybe we need to do an entire carb episode because I think there are so many people on either side of the spectrum. There are so many people that are training super hard and just not eating enough carbs. If you still have zucchini noodles or squash noodles as the quote unquote carb in one of your meals and you're a person who trains, that's 7 grams of carbs. That's not enough carbs for a meal.
Is anyone doing zoodles anymore?
Yeah, I've seen it. I think spaghetti squash is still a popular one. But yeah, we're living in a bubble, Diane. There's a lot of people who are still very concerned about their carbs and calories. So yeah.
I love my carbs.
There's that side of it. And then there's a side of it of people who are eating way too many carbs and not balancing it with protein. So you want to be somewhere in the middle, but if you're a person who trains, you need carbs to replenish your muscle glycogen. You need carbs before and after training throughout the day on not training days to recover from the training. So make sure that you are getting enough carbs, but if you haven't been getting enough carbs historically, you got to work up there slowly so that your body knows what to do with them and doesn't just store it all as fat. Yes, so sleep, eat enough food. 2 very, very important pieces of recovery that come long before expensive boots and cryo chambers and saunas and
yeah. Also, get your minerals. We talked about those in here, and we've definitely done a lot of episodes around this. But naturally, if you are focusing on a nutrient-dense, food-forward approach, and you're in the thick of summer, you're getting all the fresh fruit, you've started working on that. So we have we shared some options this episode and last as far as how to stay hydrated. We've done episodes around that. And also this next one is very important, and Adina's wheelhouse is balance your program.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
We need to be asking, is your program too intense? Do you have too many high intensity days? Like, for example, we're programming out the next block for the club right now. Oh my God, it's so good. V and I had a meeting today and just like, we kept looking at the day and just be like, this is such a fun day. But one of the days is like going to be a real live power day. Like there's going to be a lot of explosive lifts on it. And so that means that the next day needs to be a slightly lower intensity day. Like you have to vary the intensities. And so if you just are doing 6 days a week of super high intensity days, that's not going to cut it. You can train at a higher intensity, but it can't be every single training day throughout the week. So that's important. Are your training days too close together? Like maybe you've just lumped them too close together and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to recover in between. Another really important one that is like, man, we got to talk about this more. Maybe we need an episode about it is, do you have an aerobic base? Do you have that base in your cardiovascular system? So it may sound crazy to hear from a strength coach that the missing piece in your recovery might be some cardio, but like if you're completely sedentary and then you just like do true strength training a few days a week and then you're not recovering from it, you might need to build that aerobic base as a key piece of driving that recovery. So that's why we talk about getting some of that like quote unquote zone 2 cardio, or, you know, hiking uphill, hiking with a baby in a baby carrier, or some other external load. Just walking plus is what I like to think about it as. But you do need something. You do need to challenge that heart to stimulate that recovery process too.
Yeah, and you build that into STHH. We have some jumping or preparing for jumping. We have like the EMOMs and the optional conditioning. I was doing something from one of my workouts last week where I was practicing landing, like jumping off of a couch or
the depth drops,
platform. Yeah. So Neil came in as I was doing that, and he sees me standing on the couch, and he goes, "Are you using our furniture to work out?" And I was like, this couch is so old.
I'm just preparing myself for life, Neil, okay?
Yes. But he walked in as I'm standing on the couch, and he was like, what are we doing here?
Getting resourceful. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's right. So aerobic base, love to hear it. This next one is so key, and maybe you're like, duh, but
do it.
We all need to work on it, myself included. Balance your stressors outside of the gym.
Yep.
What is your stress like outside of the gym? Mental, emotional. Do you need to tap it out? Do you need to journal it out, hug it out, scream it out, figure it out?
Yeah.
And adjust all of these things as needed.
Yeah, I think an important piece of that is that like, it's not like you come up with your recovery checklist and then you just check out. These are living, breathing variables that need to be adjusted throughout different seasons. Seasonally, is it super hot out and you need more hydration? Where are you in your cycle? Should we be considering the role of things like estrogen, histamine with how we adjust these? Or is sleep worse because of those things? Did you just have a new baby?
Cycle syncing, our cycle syncing your workouts episode. So definitely go and check that out if you haven't listened to that one.
Yeah, that's a great one. Did you just have a new baby? You know, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. The variables go on. So make sure that you are constantly checking in with these things and considering if you are recovering from your workouts and adjusting accordingly, and just judging based on how you feel when you are going about your day, how your cycle is looking, how your sleep is looking, how your recovery is impacting your workouts. So if you go to approach your next workout and you feel really creaky, really sore, like you need to lean on a lot of those recovery tools, like you can't get through your workout, like you can't give the output in your workout that you did last time or that you know you should be able to give, that's where we would want to look at some of those variables and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, get honest with yourself. Definitely leaning into more recovery while I'm in a stressy season and entering my luteal phase right now. So yeah, CC me. Remember, as we say, like none of us are ever above the basics. None of us are ever too advanced to return to these things and to learn how to grow and recover. So lots of good stuff in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Make sure that you are staying hydrated in this heat.
Yes.
I've seen that meme that was like, stay hydrated and watch how you talk to me in this heat. And unclench your butthole, as always.
Go ahead and unclench it. That's step 1 in your recovery.
Yeah. Step 1.
All right. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the GYST podcast. As always, your ratings and reviews mean the world to us.
If you enjoyed this episode, take a second, take a little screenshot, throw it up on your Instagram story, and tag us so we can thank you properly for sharing this show with other women that it might help.
See you next week. We love you. Bye.